Welcome back. Long-term care is something we don't like to think about, and then one day we might need it, and we wish we'd given it more thought. So today, an expert joins us with important reasons to make Medicaid decisions when we do estate planning.
That's right. Dan Kraus is an attorney and founder of Kraus Estate Planning and Elder Law Center, and he joins us now with more on protecting yourself and your kids and your assets. Good to have you here, Dan.
Great to be here,
Morning.
Tiffany. Hi,
Yeah.
Molly.
Nice to see you.
So nice to have you here. I think Molly said it really well, where it's kind of like it's something you don't want to think about, but if you don't and then it happens, you wish you had given it more thought. So I'm sure that's something you hear quite a bit. And people always wonder, how do I pay for long-term care? How does this work?
So, as you say, people don't like to think about it, so they put it off and put it off and put it off. But if I could just tell a quick story about fictional people, but they're typical. So Max and Betty, born in the 1940s, raised a family, saved money. They put money towards their house, so the house is paid off, and they've got about $200,000 going into retirement in the early to mid 2000s, let's say. They've been retired now. Max unfortunately died a couple of years ago, and Betty is starting to lose her memory. She's not able to care for herself at home very well anymore, so now the kids are concerned. Their kids are concerned, and nobody is there to take care of her. The question is, who can take care of her, and who's going to pay for that? So who does pay for it? If she's lucky, she got a long-term care insurance policy back when she was in her 40s or 50s, but most people don't have that. So the truth is, for most people, long-term care, memory care, assisted living, nursing care comes out of the pocket until there's nothing left in the pocket, and then Medicaid will kick in and pay for that care.
Do they even take Betty's house if she doesn't, if the money runs out for long-term care? Can they seize your house?
So that's the advice that a lot of people get, is when your money runs out, now it's time to sell the house so that you can keep paying for your care. The truth is, Medicaid will kick in while you still have a house if you intend to return to the house. So the intent to return doesn't matter whether it's actually viable for you to return. As long as you intend to return, you can keep the house. The problem is, Wisconsin has a recovery program that after you've passed away, they'll take the house in order to repay what Medicaid has paid.
I mean, that could be devastating to a family legacy, you know, and there's so many of this that can be, and I think that's why it's so important. There's a thing called this like 5-year look back period. Can you tell us or explain a little bit about what that is?
So in order to save their assets, many people think, well, now that I kind of see where things are going, I'm going to give my things away to my kids because that's who I want to have it. So what the government did is they said, well, we're going to create a 5-year look back period so that if you give things away and then within 5 years you ask for Medicaid, they will say no. They'll say you are penalized for giving things away in order to avoid paying for your care. So you have to be careful.
Wow.
And I have never heard of that before.
Either.
Yeah.
So it could include what, like jewelry and furniture, or is it more like a car?
It's more like cash and real estate.
Wow.
Okay.
The state, well, to tell you the truth, they don't care whether it's jewelry or furniture, etc. If you give it away, it causes a penalty. However, it's hard for the state to trace things like jewelry and furniture. They're more interested in looking at the bank account statements, and they will go back as far as 5 years to say, what was this check for and what was that check for, to ask whether you've given any money away.
Well, I would think like most people are going to be like, I was trying to get my stuff in order. So what happens if you're caught giving things away like that?
You could be between a rock and a hard place, like they say. If you're just giving things to your kids because you wanted them to have the things, and now you don't have money to pay for your long-term care, and the state says you're in a penalty period, you might be able to have a hearing and say that you have a hardship, and it's impossible for you to pay for care. But there has to be a hearing, and you don't know how it's going to end up.
That's a lot to go through.
How can people protect themselves? I mean, a lot of this it's things I've never heard before. So what can you do in terms of Medicaid decisions and other things you can put in place in the planning process to protect people?
So what some people do is they do what's called pre-planning when they're younger, say 60s, and healthy, where they know that they're probably going to have at least 5 years. And so they become, they recognize that there's these problems that could happen later on, and they give away their stuff early. Now, if they've given away their home, or they've put things into an irrevocable trust, is what we like to see people do it because it's more safe that way. Then 5 years pass, and now it's not going to cause any penalty. So the pre-planning is when you have 5 years, but sometimes it's just there's no way to plan. People don't know about this, and all of a sudden they need long-term care, so we have crisis planning. And at that point, if someone comes to me or another person who knows what they're doing, they can help to save about half of the assets.
Wow.
So we don't have to get down to nothing, but if we're in a crisis, we can save about half.
You're blowing my mind here.
This was honestly
stuff
one of
we
the best
need to know.
conversations we've had about all this on the show. I'm going to give that to you right there.